G'day folks, we're all looking at the brand new 2026 GWM Aura, and this one is interesting because it's no longer made in China. It's not a Chinese car anymore. Instead, it's now built in Thailand in the actual Holden factory in a place called Rayong. On top of that, it's also got a new battery pack. You've got one option to choose from, not two this time, and some design tweaks, and prices are a bit different for it. And yeah, it's definitely a full-sized hatchback EV that you can buy in Australia that's actually really compelling and very nice to drive and to be in. Now, I've covered the Aura before, and I'll put some of the footage on screen actually because I did a 4K close-up video. I'll be doing one, I think, next month for the Zeekr 7X as well, and I've done a whole series for the MG4. I've done a whole series of 4K close-up quality control check videos is what I actually called them for lots of different cars. I've done one for the Aura, so I'll put that on the end of the screen on the boxes that come up. But I'll put a bit of footage on this video too for you. It's really good. You get to see really close up to these cars and just to read all the little signs and all the little good bits and the bad bits. If you've ever followed this story, you'll know that the Aura has had a bit of a rocky road here in Australia because when it first arrived in 2023, it was billed as the cheapest EV that you could buy, starting at under $45,000 in Australian dollars, by the way. So if you're English, that's sort of like £22,000. But it never quite caught the buyers in the same way that the MG4 did or the BYD Dolphin. Some of that came down to the badge recognition. People don't really know what it is or the company, and they've probably never seen one before. Maybe they have, I don't know. GWM, they do have a dealer presence here, but not for little electric hatchbacks, for example. But MG and BYD have poured a lot of money into marketing their brands. But a lot of it was also down to the Aura's pricing and specs not quite matching up to the hype, but also the back looks quite weird, and I'm pretty sure that the looks are a part of what lets it down, although I've been lucky enough to spend quite a lot of time with the GT version of the Aura, and I think it's a great car. I loved it, despite the odd looks at the back and maybe a bit at the front. I think it's generally, as a package, brilliant. So here's what is new on the 2026 GWM Aura. They've shifted the production to Thailand. Obviously, that's a big deal. That changes a couple of things. And yeah, that means that the supply lines are shorter. Tariffs are now lower for it, so they can make it a bit cheaper, give you a better battery as a base model, for example. The plant in Rayong used to build Holdens before GM shut it down, but GWM bought the same site in 2020, and then now it is producing both the Haval SUVs and the Aura hatchbacks. So in a way, Holden's old factory is still churning out these cars, but now they're just the cheap EVs in Australia that we can go buy. So it's a bit of a weird twist that I didn't really expect. You can almost still go buy a Holden if it's not a Holden and it's something else, but it's from the same place. Battery-wise, the Aura now runs one battery choice. It's LFP chemistry, 57.7 kilowatt hours. That is supplied by S-Volt, a spin-off from Great Wall itself, which is a big Chinese company, and it replaces the older CATL battery packs. Range is officially quoted up to 480 kilometers on the NEDC test, but in the real world, you're probably going to get 350, 380 or something like that. Maybe 400 if you're super careful, going very slowly. Still, for a hatch in this price range, I think that's really respectable. The old entry-level cars had 48 kilowatt-hour battery packs, and then you could also get, I think it was a 60, wasn't it? So this nice big bump to 57.7 makes this car much more usable as a daily or a weekly car, especially if you're living outside of cities. You could drive this intracity, or you could drive it rurally. I think the range is good enough to do that sort of stuff with. So yeah, and I think it looks fantastic. Power output 126 kilowatts, or about 170 horsepower in old money. Torque is 250 newton meters, so it's not rapid, but it's definitely zippy. It will definitely, it's nippy, and it will beat a lot of things off the line. So you're looking at roughly 8 to 8.5 seconds to 100 kilometers per hour. But it's perfectly fine for city driving. Very good. Very comfortable on a motorway, by the way. The GT trim gets sportier tweaks, but the drivetrain is essentially exactly the same. So don't expect any huge jump in performance or anything like that. I really just liked the look of the look and the touch of the GT version more than any of the others. definitely consider that if you can afford spending the extra money, because the GT1 in like up close in pearl white is a magnificent looking car. It's really, really nice. So let's talk about the pricing, because that's where this car will either, it will sink or swim, really. So in 2026, the Aura lineup kicks off at $34,490 Australian for their Luxe version. And then that stretches to $40,000 for the extended model, and then tops out at $46,990 for the GT model. Put that into context, a Tesla Model 3 in Australia now starts at $55,000 after recent price cuts. So the Aura is still one of the most affordable, relatively speaking, EVs that you can buy. And for some buyers, price is the only number that matters, especially in this cheaper, price-sensitive part of the market. They just want basic small hatchbacks. They don't necessarily care about how it looks or, care about power. They just want a quiet electric car they can plug in at home and not have to go to the petrol station. A lot of people don't like going to petrol stations, by the way. And even if they don't necessarily want electric cars, that just the experience of going to a petrol station is not nice for a lot of people. Interior wise, GWM has cleaned things up a bit. You've still got the quirky dual screen setup, but the infotainment system has been updated a bit, and the steering wheel has been restyled, because I actually felt like it was too thin, even though everything else was really, really lovely. It's not a luxury interior, but it is really, really nice, and there are still some cheap plastics in it, but basically the things that you actually see and feel, they're really, really nice in the Aura. But it does come with a lot of features for the money, I think, and I think it is it's worth the money. You get things like a panoramic sunroof, wireless charging, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, adaptive cruise control, lane assist, reversing camera, all as standard. So safety wise, still a five-star ANCAP rated vehicle, which I think is worth pointing out. A lot of people still think Chinese brands are a bit crap, but they're actually just not. They definitely do get proper good results, like 4 or 5 stars. Warranty is strong as well, 7 years unlimited kilometers for the vehicle and 8 years for the battery. That matches what basically BYD and MG are both offering, so no issues with that at all. Here's where it gets interesting though. With production in Thailand, the Aura could actually get to be competitive, not just on the sticker price, but on running costs and logistics. Thailand already supplies a huge portion of cars to the Australian market, especially utes and SUVs. So building the Aura there makes sense. It means faster shipping, lower costs, and potentially better after-sales support. For example, if you need a part or you crash it and you need them to ship you a bumper, for example. Stuff like that in the last few years has really been, making people's lives a bit of a miserable experience when they've had a little prang or something. If we zoom out and look at the competition, the Aura really is stepping into a crowded segment at this point, because it wasn't necessarily 3 years ago, but it is now. The BYD Dolphin here, not the cheapest one, but the one with the bigger battery pack, is $38,890 with the 60 kilowatt hour battery pack and a bit more real world range as well than the Aura. The MG4 undercuts both at times with different promotions that they keep running, and also it has rear-wheel drive dynamics. Some people really like that if you're a bit of an enthusiastic driver. If you've ever floored the throttle in a Dolphin, Ben has, just to see what it's like, and yeah, you will agree, there's torque steer and it spins and it's not the most pleasant experience. MG4s are much better off the line, much more stable. You just go straight forward. So the question is, why would someone pick the Aura over a Dolphin? Or why would someone pick the Aura over an MG4? It has that sort of, I think potentially it's because it has that sort of cute vibe. It looks little, it feels little to drive, has that sort of cute vibe that really not a lot of other cars do, akin to the Mini Cooper in a way. Some people really like that, and I think that's why I think some people have been buying them, maybe. Here's one angle. Some buyers don't really want to wait 3 to 6 months for delivery for an MG4. And, MG4s are still in short supply at the minute, or it depends on the times really, but often BYD deliveries can vary by state as well. If GWM can actually get the Auras in the dealer's lots with Thai production scaling as well, that could really be its biggest selling point. Walk in, pay your money and you get your car in 2 days' time or 4 days' time, something like that, because some people don't like to wait for a message or an email, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks later. That's not really a pleasant experience. So yeah, for plenty of people, that is more valuable than squeezing, a little bit of extra range and getting something else. They will go for the Aura if they don't mind the look of it. Another point, styling. The Aura looks kind of like a retro-inspired hatchback, a bit more like a modernized Beetle or a Porsche 356 knockoff with its Cooper-esque appearance, I would say. Some people really like that. Some people hate it. It's kind of like Marmite. But I think at least it doesn't blend into the sea of very generic crossovers that we're so used to seeing for the last 10 years. Personally, I think it's refreshing, and you're not going to mistake it for a Corolla or an MG4 or something like that. And I think it's refreshing. You can argue with me about that in the comments. I think it is refreshing. It's actually quite a nice thing. Now, I want to talk about the battery pack briefly, the chemistry, because it matters more than I think people realize. The switch to LFP chemistry from NMC chemistry means that this pack is less energy dense for sure, but far safer and longer lasting, much more appealing. LFP packs can tolerate more charge cycles. They don't degrade as quickly, for example, especially in hot climates like Australia. So that means that after 8 years, you should really still be seeing pretty much the same sort of capacity, maybe 5 or 10% less, maybe. It is also a lot cheaper to produce as well, which helps keep the sticker price down for GWM. And yeah, the battery is one of the big things, I think, for the Aura. You can now buy it with a big, adult-sized LFP battery, and I think that's a big selling point. It's always a bit of a concern when you're parking underground or charging at home for a lot of people, and because they know that statistically NMC chemistry packs are much more likely to have an issue than an LFP battery chemistry. So it's just an anxiety thing. The numbers don't really back that up so much, but it is an anxiety that a lot of people feel. I have run polls on this and asked you, would you rather have NMC or LFP? And basically everyone says LFP chemistry. I think it's like 90% or something like that. I just talked the other day about this, and some BYDs and Teslas are now hitting, even in Australia as well, 450,000 kilometers on Australia, Western Australia. The other week there was a story about a chap in Western Australia. He's done 410,000 kilometers in 4 years, I think it is, and he's only lost 10% capacity. So what is the catch? I think the main issue is the brand recognition and maybe the weird looking back of the car maybe for this. BYD has momentum. MG has momentum. Tesla obviously has momentum. Sometimes it's in the wrong direction though. GWM's Aura brand is still relatively unknown. I think a lot of people don't even know what it is, and maybe they should spend some more money on marketing, just as a bit of a guess. And a lot of people don't want to spend that sort of money and have any element of gamble or anything like that, or worry about resale. And I think that's one of the comforts for buying something like a Honda or a Toyota. People know they can definitely sell that in 3 years and it will still be relevant. Maybe not so much at this point, actually. People are having good chats in the comments about that exact topic. So this is obviously something GWM will need to address, maybe through stronger finance deals or guaranteed buyback schemes or something like that. I wish that they would actually just offer what BYD recently offered, which was a 2% finance deal, because I think that was, it's marvellous. For me, the most important takeaway is that the Aura proves cheap EVs are not going away. There's a massive demand for them. Lots of people would buy them if they could get them. A lot of legacy brands like Ford and Honda are still slowing down EV investments. So, like for example, Honda recently, I saw in one of their PDFs that you can download on the website, they actually announced that they're spending a lot less money on R&D this year for their EV platforms, for example. They're basically still saying that the demand is not there or strong enough for EVs, but it clearly is. The number of people buying them every year is going up and up and up. And if they can get the price right, obviously they will sell them quickly. Meanwhile, the Chinese brands and now Chinese-backed Thai production are pumping out affordable EVs in high volume. That's going to put some pressure on the market here. And if you can buy a 350, 400 kilometer real range EV with a 7-year warranty for 35 grand, why would you bother choosing a hybrid Corolla for $33,000? That makes no sense. And you'll still need to buy petrol for that as well. Toyotas are proving to be far less reliable than they had once been in their heyday 20 years ago, 30 years ago, something like that. So my conclusion is that the 2026 GWM Aura, a better car than it was before. Thai production is a smart move. It's better for us, the consumer, in basically every way. The new battery pack makes it more usable and easier for me to recommend as well because it's longer lasting. And the pricing is sharp enough to attract buyers who basically just want to get a cheap EV. And, will it outsell BYD with the Dolphin or the MG4 or the Dolphin Surf or the Dolphin Mini, whatever you want to call it? Probably not. But I do think it has a place, especially for people who want something quirky or affordable and available literally right now. And it is going to add that little bit of pressure that, help create that ceiling height for prices for these sort of small cars, which is obviously a good thing because it keeps our prices low. So let me know in the comments what you think about it. Would you take an Aura over a Dolphin? Would you take an Aura over an MG4? Or does the badge still put you off a little bit, or the back end of the car? Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for your time. My name is Ben Alexander. These people on screen are the channel members on YouTube and Patreon. And I appreciate your time. Any questions, just put in the comments.